Ramadanam Devake Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagat Gurum. All right, so as we were discussing last week, according to the saints, the great men, the scholar, they say the real Gita starts from verse 7, chapter 2, when Arjun is surrendering himself by the words Karpanya dosho pahata svabhavaha pruchhami tvam dharma samudha chetaha. Karpanya dosho pahatat svabhavaha pruchhami tvam dharma samudha chetaha. Yachreyah shyan nishchitam bruhitan me shishyasteham shadhimam tvam prapannam. Yachreyah shyan nishchitam bruhitan me shishyasteham shadhimam tvam prapannam. What Arjuna says? My nature is overwhelmed with the vice of faint-heartedness, and my mind is confused with regard to my duty. I entreat you, tell me what is decidedly good for me. I am your disciple. Do instruct me, who have taken refuge in you. Dear friends, this is really an important moment or of the whole Bhagavad Gita, or you can say it's really a turning point in Arjun's life. Because here Arjun maybe for the first time realized that I'm not talking to my cousin or my friend. I'm addressing to the supreme reality of universe. That is Bhagwan Krishna. And he almost surrendered himself like a disciple surrendered himself to the Guru, to the Master. He has accepted that my mind is confused. I don't know what is my duty, what I must do, what I must not do. O Bhagwan Krishna, I am your disciple. I am your disciple. Please guide me. Please instruct me what is to be done. O Bhagwan Krishna, I have taken refuge in you. You know, our scripture has emphasized that if one wants to know absolute truth, if one wants to know the secret of universe, you can say, then one has to take refuge. One has to prove himself as a disciple in front of his master. That is the real platform where the guru can impart knowledge to his disciple, or guru can show the righteous path. And very nicely here, when I say guru, the spiritual master, okay, but you know what is guru. Because the one thing is very clear and straightforward. There's those who are the seekers of truth, those who are seekers of the spiritual knowledge have to take refuge with the guru. And Arjuna has used the word yat shreyam. Yat shreyam. In the conclusion last week I was telling you people that there are two words, shreya and prayer. The shreya word is used here by Arjun. What he says? Yat shreya syan nischitam bruhitan me shishyaste ham shadhimam tvam prapannam. Prayer, you can say, all the material pleasure for the material world. But Shreya is an eternal knowledge which help me in my journey to walk on the spiritual path. And that leads me to the self-realization. Shreya. Shreya. So, we must keep these two words in mind. Shreya and prayer. Or else, we must each and every step in our life. Is this what I am doing is for Shreya or the prayer? Is it going to help me in my spiritual upliftment or the development? Or is it going to help me just for my material pleasure? Karpanyadosho pahatashvavavaha pruchhami tvam dharma samudha cheta. Arjun did not think it desirable to run away totally or turn away totally from the war. But to escape the scene, Pap, he did not find any other alternative. I mean, we just talking about Arjun's mind. So he wanted to run away from war, and he thought of such action as virtue rather than a vice of faint-heartedness. He says, rather, if I don't fight, it's better. His original nature is not escapism, but he influenced, as we were discussing in previous chapter, the first chapter, he was attached with the kinsman, the elderly. So, when Bhagwan called his action faint-hearted and unmanly, Arjun was reminded of his duty as a member of warrior class, for whom it was not befitting to run, for whom fight is the real duty, is the property, you can say. From which class he is coming from? That is the warrior class. So Arjun, by considering his faint-heartedness, says that first he is mature even as a member of the warrior class, was weighed down with the weakness of faint-heartedness, and secondly, his mind was confused. Karpanya dosho pahatasvabhavaha. His mind was confused with regard to his duty. He admitted in front of Bhagwan Krishna that I can't just decide. Being overpowered by delusion, he could not take the right decision. You know, my dear friends, that's why we need Krishna in our life. That's why we need Krishna in our thought. That's why we need Krishna in our action. That's why we need Krishna in our intellect. That's why, in short, we need Krishna in our day-to-day action, every moment. And our scripture has given the very clear concept, indwelling God. Indwelling God is always with us, always with us. But we have put the veil. He is only in the Mandir or in our Diva room. So, he could not take the right decision about its righteousness. In the previous verse, Bhagwan Krishna advised Arjun, cast off your petty faint-heartedness and stand up. Uttishta. Stand up for war. So his doubt should have been removed. Unfortunately not. But he still had some doubt. You know, I always say that Arjun represents us, you and me. I always have a question with my mind, that the Arjun who who is always or who was always with Bhagavan Krishna. And who is Bhagavan Krishna? The supreme reality of the universe. Does he have this kind of question? No, no. But Arjun represents us. That after 5,000 years, the people who are walking on this planet, Earth, will need the guidance in his or her day-to-day practice, in his or her day-to-day life. What is to be done? What is right? What is wrong? So, but he still had some doubt, because on the one hand, he thought that it was a sin, pap, to kill the kinsman and the adorable elders. But on the other hand, being a member of warrior class, it was his duty to fight. It was his duty to wage war. So he was confused with regard to his duty, and he entreats Bhagavan Krishna to tell him what his real duty is. My dear friends, I repeat again, keep Bhagavan Krishna always with us. Each and every step we can say guidance. Oh Bhagavan Krishna, please guide me. Please put me on the right path. I always tell that in the 15th chapter of 15th verse, Sarvasya chaham radhi sannivishto. I am residing in everybody's heart. We just need to understand. So, Bhagavan Krishna, he entreats Bhagavan Krishna to tell him what is his real duty. Yachreyam shandeshitam bruhitan me. In the second verse of this chapter, Bhagavan Krishna told him that his dejection was a shame, and it should be shunned by noble souls. So Arjun thought that he should also follow the path adopted by noble souls. Therefore, he praised Bhagavan Krishna to tell him what is decidedly good for him. Yashreyam. First, Arjuna was agitated and distressed, and he asks what was good for him. It shows that an awakening for salvation as a goal is not aroused in a man. So long as he is satisfied with his present situation. Mill, the thinker, the philosopher, has given a very good quote that I rather be a dissatisfied Socrates than the satisfied pig. Because if there is no dissatisfaction, person will never try. Person will never put his or her effort to rise above. He becomes aware of his real aim. One must know that who am I? One must ask himself or herself, who am I? Where I have come from? Where I have to go? What is my relationship with the universe with the Almighty. Or you can say, what is my real relationship with the creation and the Creator? Jeev, Jagat, Jagadish. Jeev is self. Jagat is the whole world. And Jagadish, Almighty. So, he becomes aware of his real aim. What is the aim? Salvation. Shishyasteham. When Arjun entreated Bhagavan Krishna to tell him what was decidedly good for him, he thought that such question could be put to a teacher and not to a chariot driver, because in the beginning he said so. Please put the chariot between two armies. I want to say, he was like an commanding Krishna. But now things have been changed. Arjun's conviction that he was a chariot warrior, while Krishna was his charioteer, whom he ordered to place the chariot between the two armies, that was gone now. That was gone. He understood. And that's why he becomes his disciple and declares, I am your disciple, so tell me what is decidedly good for me. Shishyasteham shadhimam tvam prapannam yachayam syan nischitam bruhitan me. Shadhimam tvam prapannam. Arjun thinks that the preceptor can guide the disciple, and disciple will have to shoulder the responsibility to translate his teaching into practice. Underline this sentence. Only the teachings will not help. Disciple will have to shoulder the responsibility to translate whose teacher's teaching into practice. I always tell you, my dear friends, Gnanam bhar kriya vihinah. Mere knowledge, if it is not translated in action, if we don't put in practice, Gnanam bhar, then we are carrying just the burden. It's not going to help us. It's applied to you, it's applied to me, it applies to all of us. So, to translate his teachings into practice and then make effort to attain salvation. We must understand that. We must understand that. So, Arjun, by depending on the teacher and surrendering to him, says, I have taken refuge in you. O dear Krishna, I have taken refuge in you. Instruct me. Instruct me. Here there is, particularly in this line, Sadhimam Tvam Prapannam, this particular line, the scholar of Gita come with the little different thought also. Another school of thought, you can say. Here Arjun, by using the phrase Tvam Prapannam, says that he has taken refuge in him, but actually he had not taken completely refuge in him. Why with this? This is this kind of interpretation comes. I'm going to share with you. Had he done this, he would not have uttered the words "instruct me." I repeat, had he done, he would not have uttered the words "instruct me." Because a disciple has no responsibility on his own. The full responsibility lies with the teacher. Teacher will tell what should be done, what is good for you. He does not have to say, he does not have to utter a single word. Secondly, in the previous verse 9th, he says, I shall not fight. It also shows that he had not really taken refuge in him. Otherwise, he might have not uttered these words. A disciple who takes refuge in his teacher has no say. And that's why, not exactly, in this context, but it says in Sanskrit that Guror Agna Yavicharaniya. After once it comes from Guru, there is no second thought. Just act on it. Just act on it. Follow that. Put in action. So, in his teacher has no say, no responsibility of his own. He becomes merely an instrument. Just an instrument. Instrumental devotion. Just an instrument in the hands of his preceptor, and does whatever his teacher wants him to do. Whatever. Bhagavan wants Arjun to fight, so he has to fight. That's it. Not to question why, but to do or to die. So, therefore, Bhagavan Krishna, it will be coming in the 18th chapter, says that Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja, seek refuge in me alone. Of course, that is chapter 18th and verse 66. Okay. It's long journey because the second round we started now only, so it's a long journey. Then Arjuna in the 73rd verse, which we always recite towards the end. Nashto moha smritirlabdha tat prasadan mahachita Sidosmi kata sandeha karishye vachanandava. What he says? I shall act according to your word. Is here that Arjuna really takes refuge. That's in 73rd verse of 18th chapter in him. In this verse, there are now specifically, we are just to tell little in detail. That's why I took you in that 18th chapter and verse 66 and 73rd. But I have not forgotten that we are in chapter 2 and verse 7. Okay. And this chapter 2 and verse 7, 4 points spoken by Arjuna, we have to be very attentive and try to understand. Point number 1, what Arjuna says, my nature is weighed down with the vice of faint-heartedness, and I entreat you because my mind is confused with regard to my duty. Second, tell me, he entreats, what is decidedly good for me. Third, I am your disciple. And fourth, instruct me who has taken refuge in you. Don't you think these are our points? Our mind is also confused with regard to our duty. Second point, yes, Bhagwan, please tell me what is decidedly good for me. Yes, please put me on the right path. And third point, we have to accept ourselves that, oh Bhagwan, I am your disciple. And tell Bhagwan, yes, Bhagwan, instruct me, guide me all the time in my day-to-day life, day-to-day action, day-to-day practice. If you think this over these 4 points, one by one, we realize that as far as the first point is concerned, the person to whom the question is asked is free. Whether he answers the question or not, yes, he may answer, he may not answer. The second point shows that it is his duty to answer, and gradually it takes us to duty to answer. In the third, the responsibility to guide the disciple so that he may attain salvation, and that of the teacher. In the fourth, the full responsibility for salvation of the disciple is the teacher's. But just surrender, that everything will fall in place. At least take first step, even if it looks it's too far. Even if it looks unachievable, unobtainable, take first step. Start walking towards it. Then he is always there to embrace us. But yes, he will wait for us to take the first step. That is important. That is important. That is important. In the previous verse, Arjuna takes refuge, as we have seen, in Bhagwan Krishna. But he thinks that Bhagwan Krishna wants him to wage the war. He has taken the refuge, but still wants him to wage the war, which he regards still unrighteous. And so he will again order him to wage the war. Secondly, he thinks that perhaps he has not been able to convey his feelings or convey his right message to him. Who? To Almighty. To who? To Krishna. So, in the next verse, which is 8th, Arjun clearly expresses his feelings to him, to Arjun, against the world. Verse 8. Nahi prapashya mimamapanodhyat yacchokamuchoshanamindriyanam. Nahi prapashya mimamapanodhyat yacchokamuchoshanamindriyanam. Avapya bhuma vasapatnavruddham Rajyam Suranamapi Chadhipatyam. Avapya bhuma vasapatnavruddham Rajyam Suranamapi Chadhipatyam. What Arjun says? Even on obtaining undisputed sovereignty and an affluent kingdom of this earth, as well as lordship over the gods in heaven, I do not see any remedy that can remove my grief, which withers my senses. He says, no, even if I get the kingdom, unopposed, undisputed, that's not enough to remove my grief. I mean that's why I like Arjun. Because he expresses our feeling, our confusion. He puts forward our thoughts. He puts forward our question. He puts forward our dilemma. Arjun thinks Bhagwan Krishna wants him to wage war so that he may gain victory and kingdom, and thus his grief may be removed. But he is so grief-stricken that even the joy of victory is not likely to remove his grief. Avapya bhuma vasapatnaraddham rajyam. Even if I obtain undisputed the whole kingdom on this earth, and my subjects become happy and prosperous, and I may no enemy on the face of earth, it will fail to remove my grief. Suranam abhichadhipatyam. Not to talk of worldly pleasure, even lordship of Indra, the king of God, the king of celestial, cannot remove my worry and grief. Arjun wanted to turn away from war because of his attachment for his kinsman. But here he is putting some different argument. Here he wants to run away from war because he thinks that it is an obstacle to salvation. So there is a lot difference between these two situations. When previously he told in last chapter. Nahi prapashyami mamapanudyat yachokam shoshanam indriyanam. How sad I shall become after the death of my kinsman, when I am so much grieved after thinking of it. If I grieved over the loss of a kingdom, it might be overcome by gaining it. But I am grieved at thinking of the massacre of my kinsman. If I gain a kingdom, it will rather enhance my grief. Because who could enjoy the kingdom after the death of my? Because who can enjoy? Who could enjoy the kingdom after the death of my kinsman? Therefore, undisputed kingdom on this earth and lordship over the celestial cannot remove the grave that is parching my senses. So that was Arjun's declaration. What Arjun did after saying that even possession of material object would not relieve him of his grief is contained in the verse follow. He is going to say, Sanjay is going to describe the mental the dilemma or the mental situation, what is going on in Arjun's mind. Sanjay is going to describe. What he is going to describe, we will have to wait for 1 week. Yeah. So we will see what Sanjay is going to say about that in today's talk. Whatever you like, whatever you enjoy, whatever you understood. As I always say, that our main reference book is Swami Ram Sukdas Ji's Sadhak Sanjeevani. So whatever I have heard, I have read, I have studied, I am just sharing with you. Absolutely, absolutely nothing belongs to me. So particularly in today's class, we have discussed that complete surrender from Arjun comes in 73rd verse of 18th chapter. Yes, we have started our journey now for the second round of our Gita class. And when we will reach to that 18th chapter, when it happens, it happens. But at least we start practicing, keeping that in mind. We always conclude our Gita class with Nashto moha smrutirlabdha tat prasadan maya achyuta sthitosme gata sandeha karishyē vachanam tava karishyē vachanam tava.